professional credentials, but the issue of gay marriage is actually very personally important to each of the three of them, and they have all been dedicated throughout their lifetime to the issue, and so it's pretty cool to have them here because they have a lot of passion and personal experience to share. So thank you so much for joining me. Before we start, I did want to inform the audience that there are so many issues. I mean, I myself was daunted in going over the outline of the legal and financial estate issues involved in same-sex marriage with the New York law, in conflict with the federal law, and various other a patchwork of state laws across the country. So we're going to cover the highlights, but please know we are not trying to give a comprehensive view of everything. The three of these esteemed panelists will be available afterwards for questions too, so to the extent that there's a particular issue you are interested in, you can be sure to ask them afterwards. So let's start by a first question. I'll turn it to you, Fern. So
the biggest change is now two people who love each other, who are same-sex or LGBT, will be recognized by New York State. This is major. Before this new law in June, I remember when I was district leader in the village in '86, and then I had legal cases. I had my own practice, been representing same-sex couples quite a while. We would have to come up with the strangest legal theories to be treated as a family. Two people contributed, bought a home together, maybe they put it in one person's name. I would have to come up with theories of constructive trust to try to recognize the two partners as a family. Now, legally, in all the courts of New York State, you will be recognized as a family. This is major. It's major for assets and debts. It's major for order protections if there's domestic violence. Otherwise, you would not even treat it. It's even major in terms of a YMCA or a family membership to a swimming pool. I represented a same-sex couple in Rockland County that could not join the Y together. So getting that type of treatment through the courts, where you are recognized as a family, for support issues, for asset issues, for orders of protection, is major. And there are 1,100 state rights that now, as a married person, you can take advantage of, including things like spousal privilege in case you're arrested for, not that you want to be arrested, but for criminal issues. Or basically spousal immunity, things like this. So it's a major step from when we were fighting for the gay rights bill back in '86, just with the city council. This is a major accomplishment for New York State.
and sometimes those things that seem so simple can be incredibly meaningful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so Harvey, I'll turn it to you. A very good job of keeping it simple. So maybe start to run through some of the things that couples should be thinking about.
Okay.
Come to mind for you, for your clients?
Sure. Two issues that I'd like to discuss. One, if you have a will, you know that you can leave property to whomever you want. When
you marry, it is an economic partnership. And along with that comes many, many obligations, including spousal support, child support if you have children, and you can be liable for your partner's debts. So if you're not married, and even if you live physically separate, you wouldn't be liable if they end up in the hospital or a car accident. When you're married, even if you've been physically separated for many years, you could be liable, okay? I don't want to put a damper on. And the major point I want to make in this area is you really need to think about prenuptials, particularly in same-sex and LGBT, because for hetero people, they still have the protection of the federal government, and we don't, okay? So with retirement benefits, when you're married, for a hetero couple, they basically can get each other's retirement funds. Let's say you've been married for 20 years, and you both contributed to the marriage greatly. You're entitled to share in the retirement benefits, okay? Now, you think you're married, you're a lesbian couple, you don't have that right, because the federal government controls the pensions. And they have not given us that right yet, okay? So then you must do a prenup if you want to share the retirement benefits. Because at least in a prenup, you can control by contract what you want to share and what you don't want to share with your partner. It's about empowerment, getting away from the shoulds, okay? Is that basically you can then make a contract, and you can think about it even though you're romantic and passionate and sexual, but you can think about these things in a rational way. You can think about what do we want to share and what do we don't. And people say share it, but that's going to lead to problems, conflict, even before we get married. What I have found in 25 years of private practice and part of now for 20 years is that those who enter into these discussions, like the pillars, I'm learning a lot from David tonight, is that basically have better marriages. So you do want to get advice about a prenup and see what assets and debts you want to share, particularly about the retirement, and what happens if you separate about spousal support. Very crucial.
And I think one of the things you mentioned, Sherry, is that because many of your clients are coming, have been together for many, many years, there's actually a very important conversation. There are assets that have been developed during the relationship, but it's a moment to decide how you want those assets to be treated. So in a way, that discussion that is important for any couple getting married becomes more exacerbated because you've had to wait so long to get the legal right.
Exactly. And just briefly, you do have to think about children from prior relationships, if there are any, and businesses already established. So it's quite involved.
We've started to get into the financial implications. We really wanted to cover legal rights and responsibilities. We're sort of segueing nicely into the financial implications, but I also wanted to touch on those specifically. Maybe Harvey and Fern, can you talk about the most important financial implications that you see coming along with legalizing marriage?
Sure.
Contrast between the federal law and the state law. So, what are the most important things that same-sex couples getting married in New York need to understand about that differential?
Let me address this
Sure.
a little bit. Is that it's very important when it comes to family issues. For instance, if you're legal in New York State and you go into another state and they don't recognize same-sex marriage, it affects you in a number of ways. With children, on the issues of children, you won't be recognized as a parent. You won't be able to see your child if that child's in the hospital as a parent. So all the protections that you have, she's looking at me like, Sherry, what are you saying? But all the protections that we fought so hard for in New York State, if other states don't have a same-sex marriage law, and because we have the prohibition at the federal level, then when you travel to other states, you won't be recognized as a spouse. And therefore, you're not even recognized as a legal parent if you're not the biological parent. Some states have reciprocity. Some states will say, okay, if you were legally married in another state, even though we don't recognize same-sex marriage, we'll accept it. New York had that before they passed the same-sex marriage. But many states do not have that, and many countries don't have it. So if you go on vacation in another country, you won't even be able to see your lover as your spouse. This is significant. Also, Social Security. With hetero couples, after 10 years of marriage, you have a right to choose from your own Social Security or your spouse's, and you can't do that. What I am recommending is that if you do have a child or your clients have children, basically, that even though you may be recognized as a parent in this state or in Canada, basically you still should remember that second parent adoption. And the only last point I want to make is that, and I was saying this when we all went out for dinner, is that we've come a long way, and this is major victory. But there still will be times, particularly in other states or countries, when you feel your rights are violated, or even in this state, and you may want to bring a lawsuit on discrimination, sexual orientation. The only thing I suggest is is that like the civil rights movement, where they work together, it is important you contact Lambda so that all the lawsuits are on the same page, so that we don't have bad precedent by judges. This way we strategize together. Thank you.
That's